George Floyd, it was 3 years ago this month that George Floyd was killed. And got to reiterate, we wish that did not happen, okay? Totally. We wish he had not stolen. We wish he had not been a career criminal. We wish those cops had used some discretion. We wish those cops did not actually take mercy at one point and bring him out of the car because he was having a panic attack. A lot of things went wrong. And a lot of things are being held from us. Have you noticed that, right? So much about the actual incident itself and so much about George Floyd. There are statues for this man all over the place and murals. And it's neither here nor there, but why do they treat him like a saint? He was a man just like anybody else. And actually, he had a bit more colorful a life than a lot of men. For instance, he tried his hand at porn. Did you know that? Yes, the porn star, George Floyd, a brief career. That doesn't really mean anything other than it's a fact that has been kept from the American people. It's interesting, whatever. It doesn't change anything, but why are we kept? Why are these things kept from us? Black Lives Matter, the protests, all beautiful, right? All entirely beautiful. Now we know better. You got to look hard, but we know better, actually. You got to look hard in the media, but we lived through it, right? All the riots, all the horrible damage, the looting and beyond. It was terrible. And they never talked about the real issues plaguing so much of the African American community. You want to blame slavery? All right. But what about this? 64% of black children are born into single-parent households. That's a big deal. Certainly, it doesn't mean everybody born into a single-parent household is doomed, but of course not. But it is a factor that, when you look at millions and millions of people, can put one at a disadvantage. It wasn't always like this, actually. In 1965, only 1 in 4 children were born into single-parent households. Now, this is a big deal. It really is, from a sociological perspective. And unfortunately, not too many people talk about it. Some important people do, though. Take a look.
Here are the 3 rules that you need to fulfill as a person before you can start complaining about your life failures being the result of somebody else's actions. Number 1, you need to finish high school. Number 2, you need to get married before you have babies. Number 3, you need to get a job. That's it. You do those things, you will not be permanently poor in the United States of America.
It's really strong. It's true. Candace Owens has been known to make this case.
Bottom line is that white supremacy, racism, white nationalism, words that once held real meaning, have now become nothing more than election strategies. Every 4 years, the black community is offered handouts and fear. Handouts and fear. Reparations and white nationalism. This is the Democrat preview.
Wow. That's a lot of truth right there. And even Barack Obama.
Too many fathers are MIA. Too many fathers are AWOL. You and I know this is true everywhere, but nowhere is it more true than in the African American community. We know the statistics that children who grow up without a father are 5 times more likely to live in poverty and commit crime. They're 9 times more likely to drop out of school, 20 times more likely to end up in prison.
Wow. He didn't do it again, though. He got scared because he was criticized, and Barack Obama does not like criticism when it comes from the left. So let's put up those 3 individuals: Shapiro, Owens, Obama. Obama got scared and ran away. And these 2, you know what they call them, all the time. And there aren't many people who can withstand that kind of criticism. So what happens? Everybody blames, the 1619 Project. That explains why things are the way they are. The original sin of slavery. Mitt Romney runs to Black Lives Matter protests. Democrats kneel with cloth that they don't understand. Joe is angry all the time. Corporate America, what do? Well, they don't want any trouble, right? They just want the money. So they give in as well.
We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
Companies like ours must speak up as allies to the Black Lives Matter movement.
It's a critical time for our country.
All right,
It's a
so it
critical
goes on
time
like
for
this. You heard it.
business.
I heard it. They throw money at Black Lives Matter. They threw a lot of it. They started diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and hired DEI officers. And everybody has to speak a new and very odd language. The real offensive one in that mix, though, was Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. I have a Coca-Cola right here, okay? I'm not calling for a boycott. But this individual who runs Coke said something about the Georgia voting law that was totally false. Why did he do this?
Let me be crystal clear and unequivocal. This legislation is unacceptable. It is a step backwards, and it does not promote principles we have stood for in Georgia.
All right, he said he was going to be crystal clear about his position on the, and he got it totally wrong. As you know, record voting in Georgia. A Coke. There's nothing crystal clear about this, okay? Nothing crystal clear. There is actually something in there called phentylamine. Phentylamine. This is poison. This is poison. That company, they don't care about us. They don't care about children. They care about their money. And I am not going to drink this stuff anymore. What good is it? They're all like this, by the way. So many. You know, I have to fly on woke airlines when I have to go somewhere. So do you. But what about Fritos? Do we have to eat Fritos? They're not good for us. And look at what they're doing to society in a small way, but it's significant.
You love our music. You love our culture. But do you love us? Do you see us? Do you hear us now?
We know you didn't listen.
We sang songs and you didn't listen. I can't breathe.
And in the fight against systematic racism and inequality, Doritos is committing to amplifying Black voices so you can clearly hear us now.
Wow, Doritos. The Frito people, right? See, this is easy. These cheesy, silly videos, they keep making their poison. And Doritos, what have they ever done for anybody, right? Eating Doritos, they're delicious, but I don't need that stuff anymore. Tell you what, this silly virtue signaling, if they really wanted to help, if they really wanted to talk about fathers not leaving home, and that would save a lot of children. It would save children's lives. But nobody really wants to rock the boat. Nobody wants to run the risk of offending someone, so they'll just go along with this crazy woke mob. There's a lot about money, oh, by the way. So they're still getting shot, And it's the NRA's fault, right? You heard that. It's the NRA's fault. Can we talk for a moment about what might be really contributing to the murders, the gun violence we see, these pills that they are putting so many kids and adults on, psychotropic drugs that were almost unheard of 30 and 40 years ago before we really had to deal with school shootings and church shootings? What about these pills? Why don't we ever talk about psychotropic drugs? Because sometimes right on the label, right on the bottle, you hear about the side effects.
Some people have had changes in behavior, hostility, agitation, depressed mood, and suicidal thoughts or actions.
Suicidal thoughts or actions? Homicidal thoughts, suicidal thoughts? That's kind of a big thing. Why is this not discussed? Because, well, big media gets money from big pharma in a big way.
By Pfizer. ABC News Nightline. Brought to you by Pfizer. Making a difference. Brought to you by Pfizer.
CNN Tonight. Brought to you by Pfizer. Early Start. Brought to you by Pfizer. Friday night on Aaron Burnett Out Front. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This Week with George Stephanopoulos is brought to you by Pfizer.
This weather report brought to you by Pfizer.
Today's countdown to the royal wedding is brought to you by Pfizer.
And now a CBS Sports Update brought to you by Pfizer.
Meet the Press Data Download brought to you by Pfizer.
This portion of CBS This Morning sponsored by Pfizer.
On how to find.
All right, I get the point here, and I think we all do. There's no hard questions ever going to be asked of Pfizer or any other major pharmaceutical companies. I mean, you know, some rogue reporter may throw a question at Davos when they go over there for the World Economic Forum, but they fought their way to freedom here and silence, okay? They've silenced so many stories. Not around here. Not around here. All right, so taking on Big Pharma, I will admit, is tough. You got to do what you can do, right? But here's something that can equip anybody for anything. Faith. And unfortunately, people are losing it big time. Big time. This might be the root of all of our trouble. And this just might be the solution to all of our problems. Faith, the Bible, God, Jesus. For Christians, yes. Some things to think about. I'll be right back.